I sat in the oncologist's office receiving devastating news. Stage 3, breast cancer. Within 2 weeks, I quietly sold my eco-friendly cleaning products company for $12 million through my lawyer, telling no one, not even my daughter Harper. I planned to focus on treatment and eventually tell Harper about the windfall. But 3 days after the sale closed, Harper arrived at my house unannounced, with her new boyfriend, a stack of papers, and words that made my blood run cold. "Mom, we need to talk about your finances. I've been consulting with an attorney. My name is Aline Harrison, and I'm 63 years old. I've spent most of my adult life building something from nothing, raising my daughter alone, and believing that hard work and integrity would always see me through. That morning in Dr. Feldman's office 3 months earlier, staring at the scans on his computer screen, I learned that life doesn't always care about your plans. The lump he'd found during a self-exam turned out to be invasive ductal carcinoma. Stage 3, Dr. Feldman's voice was gentle as he outlined the treatment plan. Surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, maybe 18 months of intensive care. Maybe. That word hung in the air between us like a question I wasn't ready to answer. My first thought, I'm ashamed to admit, wasn't about my own mortality. It was about Harper, my daughter, my only child, the little girl Ede, raised alone since her father walked out when she was 7 years old. How would I tell her? Ede built Clean Start solutions from my garage 26 years ago, mixing non-toxic cleaning formulas at my kitchen table while Harper did her homework beside me. Back then, I worked double shifts as a nurse at County General, then came home to blend essential oils and plant-based surfactants until midnight. Harper grew up watching me fight for every inch of success, never taking shortcuts, never giving up. The company grew slowly at first. Local stores, then regional chains, then a breakthrough contract with a national retailer. By the time Harper graduated from college with her marketing degree, Clean Start was bringing in $8 million a year. Not bad for a divorced nurse who started with $200 and a dream. Harper and I had always been close. Weekly dinners at our favorite bistro on Cherry Street. Shopping trips where we'd laugh about nothing. Long phone calls where she'd tell me about her life working in social media marketing for a tech startup downtown. She lived in a trendy apartment 40 minutes away, but we talked almost every day. So when I invited her to lunch to tell her about the diagnosis, I expected tears, fear, maybe anger at the universe. What I got was something I didn't quite understand. We sat in our usual booth at Marcello's, the Italian place where we'd celebrated every birthday and promotion for the past 15 years. I reached across the red checkered tablecloth and took her hand. "Honey, I need to tell you something. I went to the doctor last week, and they found something. It's breast cancer. Stage 3. Harper's face went pale. Her hand trembled in mine. Tears welled up in her brown eyes, the same shade as her father's, the only thing had left her besides his absence. "Mom." "Oh my God, Mom." She squeezed my hand hard. We cried together for a few minutes. I told her about the treatment plan, assured her that Dr. Feldman was optimistic, that I was strong, that we'd get through this together. She nodded, wiping her eyes with her napkin. Then the questions started. "How much is the company worth now?" Harper asked, her voice still thick with tears but suddenly focused. I blinked. "What?" "Clean Start. What's the current valuation? Do you have life insurance? Have you updated your will recently?" Something cold slithered down my spine. "Harper, I just told you I have cancer. Why are you asking about money?" She looked almost offended. "I'm being practical, Mom. Someone has to think about these things. You've worked so hard to build the company. We need to protect it. Protect you." I tried to rationalize it. She was in shock. People process bad news differently. Maybe this was her way of feeling in control when everything felt out of control. I have life insurance through the company, I said carefully. My will is current. Everything is in order. But how much is the company worth? She pressed. 8 million? 10? Have you gotten it appraised recently? Why does that matter right now? Harper leaned forward, her expression intense. Because you need to think about succession planning. What if the treatment is harder than expected? What if you can't run the company? Someone needs to be ready to step in. The rest of the lunch passed in a blur of her questions about assets, accounts, business operations. I gave vague answers, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. This wasn't grief or concern. This felt like an audit. That evening, as I sat alone in my house trying to process both the cancer diagnosis and Harper's strange reaction, my phone buzzed with a text from her. Been thinking about everything. You should probably step back from the company. I could help run it, or we should consider selling while it's still valuable. Your health has to be the priority, but we can't let the business suffer. Have you gotten it appraised? I stared at the message for a long time. My daughter had never shown interest in running Clean Start. Shed built her own career in a completely different field. Why was she suddenly so concerned about the business valuation? I lay awake that night, the question circling my mind like a vulture. Something wasn't right. The cold knot in my stomach tightened with a feeling I couldn't name yet, but would soon recognize as the first whisper of betrayal. The next morning, I called Gerald Patterson, the attorney who'd handled my business affairs for 15 years. I trusted Gerald implicitly. Head guided me through contracts, disputes, expansion deals, always with steady wisdom and unwavering ethics. Gerald, I need to talk to you, I said when he answered. Can I come by today? An hour later, I sat in his downtown office, surrounded by law books and framed degrees, telling him about the diagnosis and Harper's reaction. Gerald listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious. I'm very sorry about your health news, Aline, he said when I finished. But I have to say, Harper's questions concern me. It's one thing to be practical. It's another to be this focused on assets before you've even started treatment. Maybe I'm overreacting, I said, wanting to believe it. Gerald shook his head. In my experience, when someone's first response to a parent's illness is financial inquiry, there's usually a reason. Have you considered getting your affairs in order regardless? Not because I think you won't beat this, but because it's always wise to be prepared. What do you mean? Well, for instance, I've had some inquiries about Clean Start over the past 6 months. A major national brand is interested in acquiring your formulas and distribution network. They've made preliminary overtures. I sat up straighter. Someone wants to buy the company. They've been circling for a while. I didn't bring it to you before because you've never expressed interest in selling. But given the circumstances, it might be worth considering. The offer is substantial. $12 million, all cash, quick close, $12 million. The number hung in the air like a lifeline. If you sold, Gerald continued, you could focus entirely on your health. No business stress. Financial security for whatever comes next. And frankly, it would protect the asset from any potential complications. I thought about Harper's texts, her insistent questions, the way Shed said we when discussing the company's future. A plan began forming in my mind. Gerald, if I were to accept this offer, could we keep it confidential? Completely confidential. He raised an eyebrow. You don't want to tell Harper. Not yet. I need time to think. Time to understand what's really happening. Can the sale be done quietly? Yes, I can structure it so the paperwork is sealed. The wire transfer goes through business accounts only. If you don't tell anyone, no one will know. I made my decision. Let's do it. But Gerald, am serious about the confidentiality. Don't tell anyone. Not my accountant, not anyone at the company, no one. Just handle it. The sale process moved quickly. Within 10 days, contracts were signed, due diligence completed, closing scheduled. Gerald was a master of discretion. Everything happened behind the scenes while I continued to run Clean Start as though nothing had changed. But Harper's behavior was changing rapidly, and not in ways that reassured me. She started visiting more often, which at first made me happy. My daughter, concerned about her sick mother, wanting to spend time together. But the visits felt performative, staged. She'd arrive with flowers and worried expressions, but within 20 minutes, every conversation turned to finances. "Mom, have you organized your paperwork? Where do you keep your account statements? Have you thought about giving me access to your accounts, just in case you're too sick to handle bills? A friend at work told me about power of attorney. It's really smart for situations like this." When I'd deflect or change the subject, I'd catch frustration flickering across her face before she'd smile and say something like, "I'm just trying to help, Mom." One afternoon, she brought up nursing homes. "Just researching options for later," she said breezily, showing me brochures for facilities that cost $15,000 a month. "Some of these places require big deposits. We should plan ahead." Another time, she mentioned that a friend's mother had given her daughter power of attorney. It made everything so much easier when she got really sick, Harper said, watching my reaction carefully. "No stress about bills or decisions. Someone trustworthy handling everything." I noticed her taking photos of things in my house with her phone. When I asked why, she said, "Just documenting memories, Mom. In case." She trailed off with a sad smile, but something about it felt calculated. Then came the day that shattered any remaining doubt. Harper was visiting on a Wednesday afternoon. I'd offered to make tea, went to the kitchen to put the kettle on. She stayed in the living room, and I heard her phone ring. She answered quickly, her voice dropping to what she probably thought was a whisper. I was walking back with the tea tray when I heard her through the half-open door. "I'm telling you, she's worth at least $8 million with the company and the house. She's not thinking clearly since the diagnosis. Keeps putting me off about the financials." I froze, the tray trembling in my hands. A pause, then Harper's voice again, lower but distinct. "My lawyer says we might need to go the incompetency route if she won't cooperate. She's 63 and has cancer. That should be enough." A male voice mumbled something I couldn't make out. Harper laughed, an ugly sound I'd never heard from her before. "Once we have control, we can sell the company ourselves and manage everything. She'll be too sick to even notice." The tea tray slipped from my hands. I caught it at the last second, set it down silently on the hallway table. My heart hammered against my ribs. My daughter, my only child, the little girl I'd sacrificed everything for, was plotting to have me declared incompetent so she could steal everything I'd built. And there was a we. She had a partner in this scheme. That male voice. I hadn't recognized it. I backed away quietly, went to my bedroom, sat on the edge of my bed, and stared at the wall. The betrayal was so complete, so devastating, that for several minutes I couldn't even process the emotions. It felt like drowning in ice water. Then a strange calm settled over me. I thought of the $12 million sitting in business accounts. I thought of Gerald's discretion. I thought of the sale closing in 2 days. I'd just received the most painful gift imaginable. The truth about my daughter's character, revealed before she could act on her plans. When Harper called out that she was leaving, I composed myself and walked her to the door with a smile. "Thanks for visiting, honey. I love you. Love you too, Mom. Feel better. Well, talk soon about getting things organized, okay?" "Okay," I said. As I watched her drive away, I whispered a prayer of gratitude that Id sold the company and told no one. Whatever was coming next, I'd face it prepared. 2 days later, I got the notification. $12 million had been wired to my business account. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the email confirmation, feeling surreal. In one moment, I'd become wealthier than I'd ever imagined. In another moment, I'd lost trust in the person I loved most in the world. I called Gerald immediately. The money came through. "Congratulations, Aline. How do you feel?" "Terrified. Can we move it somewhere Harper doesn't know about?" Within hours, Gerald had established a trust account at a different bank, transferred the funds, created a paper trail that would be invisible to anyone who didn't know where to look. The business account showed normal operating balances. From the outside, nothing had changed. Harper called daily now, her voice sweet but insistent. "Mom, I really think we should get together and go through your files, just to help you get organized." I put her off with excuses about not feeling well, needing rest, having appointments. Each time, I could hear her frustration growing. 3 days after the sale closed, 3 days after $12 million disappeared into accounts Harper didn't know existed, my doorbell rang at 10 in the morning. I wasn't expecting anyone. I'd had my first chemotherapy treatment the day before and felt weak and nauseous. I almost didn't answer, but the doorbell rang again, persistent. I opened the door to find Harper standing there with a man I'd only met once before, Garrett Sullivan. Harper had introduced him about 6 weeks ago at a coffee shop, very casually. "This is Garrett. We work together." That was it. No mention of dating, no suggestion of anything serious. Just a friendly wave and a brief conversation before Head excused himself to take a call. Now Garrett stood on my doorstep wearing an expensive charcoal suit, his dark hair slicked back, his smile confident in a way that made my skin crawl. Harper beamed beside him, practically bouncing. "Mom, we have news." Harper breezed past me into the house, Garrett following with a nod of greeting. I closed the door slowly, my mind racing. This was the voice I'd heard on her phone call. This was the we. We ended up in my living room, me sitting stiffly on the armchair, them on the sofa holding hands. "Garrett and I are engaged." Harper thrust out her left hand, showing off a large diamond ring that must have cost $30,000. "I know the timing seems fast, but with everything happening with you, we realized life is short. We want to be together. We want to help you through this." I looked at the ring, at their joined hands, at Garrett's smooth smile. Every instinct screamed danger. "Congratulations," I managed. "This is quite sudden. When you know, you know," Garrett said, his voice warm but his eyes cold and calculating. "And we both want to be here for you during this difficult time." Harper nodded eagerly. "That's actually why we came by. We've been talking, and we want to help you, Mom. Really help you." Garrett reached into a leather briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Mrs. Harrison, Harper and I have been consulting with my attorney. Given your diagnosis and the difficult treatment ahead, we think it's time to get some practical matters handled." He slid the folder across my coffee table. I opened it with shaking hands. Power of attorney forms, durable and medical, already filled out with Harper's name in every blank, waiting only for my signature. "This will allow Harper to manage your finances, handle the business, pay your bills, make medical decisions if you're unable to," Garrett explained in a smooth, practiced tone. "It's standard for situations like this. Very common. Protects everyone involved." I looked up at him. "You're an attorney. Estate planning and elder law. It's what I do. I've helped dozens of families navigate situations exactly like yours. This really is for your own protection, Mrs. Harrison. Elder law." The phrase hit me like a slap. I was 63, not 93. But to him, to them, I was already a mark. An elderly person to be managed and controlled. I appreciate the thought, I said carefully, but am not signing anything today. I need time to consider this with my own attorney. Harper's face darkened instantly. The sweet, concerned daughter vanished, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Mom, don't be difficult. We're trying to help you. You're sick. You're not thinking clearly. You need someone to handle things before you make mistakes. I'm thinking perfectly clearly, I said, my voice steady despite my hammering heart. And I said no. Garrett leaned forward, his tone patronizing now. Mrs. Harrison, it's very common for patients in your situation to experience cognitive difficulties. The cancer itself, the stress, the medications. This is for your protection. You might not realize it now, but you need help. Something inside me snapped. I stood up, trembling with anger. I think you both should leave, now. Harper stood too, her face flushed. Fine. But we're not going away, Mother. Someone needs to manage your affairs, and if you won't cooperate, there are other ways. Is that a threat? Garrett put a hand on Harper's arm, his smile never wavering. Of course not. We're just concerned family. But Harper's right. If you're unable to make sound decisions, the court can appoint someone to help you. It's a simple guardianship process. For your own good, they left, taking their papers and their threats with them. I locked the door behind them and leaned against it, my whole body shaking. My daughter had recruited an attorney boyfriend to legally steal everything from me. The engagement might be real or might be strategy. Either way, they were hunting me like prey. But they didn't know the prey had already moved the target. I grabbed my phone and called Gerald. We have a problem, a big one. I need you to come over now. Gerald arrived within an hour, took one look at my face, and said, Tell me everything. I told him about the surprise engagement, the power of attorney documents, the threats about guardianship. I told him about the phone call it overheard, about Harper's systematic questions over the past months, about how Garrett specialized in elder law. Gerald's expression grew grimmer with every word. This is serious, Aline. These documents they brought. Let me see if I still have copies in my briefcase from similar cases. He pulled out samples. These are aggressive. If you had signed, Harper would have immediate access to everything. Bank accounts, business decisions, medical choices. You'd have essentially handed her complete control. What do I do? First, we document everything. Then, we investigate. I know a good private investigator, someone discreet and thorough. If Harper and this Garrett are planning something, we need to know exactly what before we can defend against it. The private investigator's name was Emily Rosales. She arrived that evening, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with 20 years of experience in financial fraud and elder exploitation cases. Tell me about your daughter, she said, recording on her phone. Everything you can remember about her behavior, her questions, her new boyfriend. I talked for 2 hours. Emily listened, took notes, asked pointed questions. Give me a week, she said when I finished. I'll find out who Garrett Sullivan really is and what your daughter's been up to. The week that followed was the longest of my life. I started my chemotherapy, spending hours in the infusion center with poison dripping into my veins, killing cancer cells and healthy ones alike. I came home weak and nauseous, but I forced myself to stay alert, to document everything, to prepare. Harper called twice. I let both calls go to voicemail. She didn't leave messages. 8 days after our meeting, Emily returned to my house with Gerald. She carried a thick folder and wore an expression that made my stomach drop. You're going to want to sit down, she said. We gathered around my kitchen table. Emily opened the folder and began laying out documents like cards in a deadly game. Garrett Sullivan is indeed a licensed attorney in this state, but he's been disciplined twice by the Bar Association for ethics violations. Once for mishandling client funds, once for pressuring an elderly client to change her will in favor of his girlfriend. She slid across a printed Bar Association record. I read it, feeling sick. He specializes in what he calls wealth transfer planning, but several former clients have complained that he helped their family members take control of assets inappropriately. Nothing's stuck legally, but there's a clear pattern. Emily pulled out another document. Harper and Garrett have been dating for 4 months, not 6 weeks. They met at a seminar on estate planning and wealth management. Here is a photo from the event, time-stamped. I stared at the image of Harper and Garrett deep in conversation at a conference center. It gets worse, Emily continued. Harper has been building a case for incompetency against you for 2 months. She spread out more evidence. Records of Harper calling my neighbors, asking if they'd noticed me seeming confused or forgetting things. Documented phone calls to Dr. Feldman's office claiming concern about my mental state. Paperwork filed with the county suggesting I might need a guardianship evaluation. She's been setting the stage, Gerald said quietly, creating a paper trail to support a claim that you're incompetent. Emily wasn't finished. I pulled your credit report with your permission. Harper has attempted to open 3 credit cards in your name in the past month. 2 applications were flagged as fraud and denied. One went through for a $15,000 limit. She showed me the statements. The card had been maxed out immediately with cash advances. She also applied for a home equity loan against this property for $200,000. It was denied because the bank called you to verify. Remember. I did remember. A call 3 weeks ago from First National Bank asking if Eid applied for a loan. Eid said no. They'd said they'd flag it as fraud. I hadn't thought much about it at the time. She forged your signature on that application, Emily said. That's a felony. My hands trembled as I looked at the evidence of my daughter's systematic betrayal. But Emily still had more to show me. With your permission, Gerald had me install audio monitoring in your home. It's legal, since you own the property and consented. Harper still has a key from when she lived here, correct? I nodded. 3 days ago, while you were at your chemotherapy appointment, Harper and Garrett entered your home. Here is what they said. Emily pressed play on a small digital recorder. My daughter's voice filled my kitchen, casual and cold. The old lady doesn't even know what she has. Once we get the POA, this'll be easy. Drain the accounts, sell the company, sell the house. She'll be in treatment for months, barely aware. Garrett's voice responded. What if she fights it? She won't. Shay's too sick, too trusting. And if she does, we go to court. Judge Whitmore owes me a favor. I helped with his campaign last year. Hell fast-track the guardianship. Harper laughed, the sound making my blood run cold. By the time she realizes what's happening, everything will be ours. Split 50-50, like we agreed. The recording continued for another 10 minutes, documenting them, going through my files, photographing documents, discussing which assets to target first. When it ended, I sat in silence, tears running down my face. There's one more thing, Emily said gently. I looked into Harper's finances. Aline, your daughter has a serious gambling problem. She owes over $300,000 to casinos and online betting sites. Credit cards maxed, personal loans defaulted. She's been contacted by collection agencies. There are threats from people you don't want to owe money to. She showed me printouts of Harper's credit report, statements from casinos, records of massive losses. Garrett approached her, not the other way around, Emily explained. He saw her desperation. He offered to help her access her inheritance early in exchange for 50%. They've been planning this since before your diagnosis. The cancer just accelerated their timeline. I looked at Gerald through my tears. My daughter isn't just greedy. She's desperate and being manipulated. That doesn't excuse what she's doing, Gerald said firmly. She's made choices, criminal choices. But yes, there's more to this story than simple greed. I wiped my eyes, and beneath the grief, I felt something else rising: determination, anger. The same steel that had carried me through single motherhood, through building a business from nothing, through every challenge I'd faced. What do we do? I asked. Gerald and Emily exchanged looks. We fight back, Gerald said, and we make sure they never get the chance to do this to you or anyone else. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of legal strategy and preparation. Gerald assembled a team: an estate attorney, a criminal attorney specializing in elder fraud, and a forensic accountant. Together, we built an impenetrable fortress around my life and assets. First, we documented everything: the forged credit applications, the illegal entry into my home, the recorded conversations plotting to steal from me. We filed police reports for identity theft and fraud. The detective assigned to the case, a patient woman named Alice Morrison, took my statement and collected all the evidence Emily had gathered. This is a strong case, Detective Morrison said. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, identity theft, forgery, potentially conspiracy. These are serious charges. Next, Gerald had me change every lock in my house. We installed a comprehensive security system with cameras covering every entrance. I called my bank and credit card companies, placed fraud alerts on all my accounts, changed every password and security question. Then came the hard part: protecting my assets legally. We moved everything into an irrevocable trust with Gerald as trustee. My house, my investments, and the $12 million from the sale were now beyond Harper's reach, even if she somehow got power of attorney. The trust was structured so that no one could access or alter it except through Gerald's authority as trustee. I updated my will, specifically disinheriting Harper with clear language. Due to attempted financial exploitation and elder abuse by my daughter Harper Marie Harrison, I leave her nothing. This is not an oversight, but a deliberate decision made with full mental capacity. I created a new, durable power of attorney, designating my best friend, Patricia Nowak, as my agent. Patricia and I had known each other for 35 years. She was a retired school teacher, honest as the day is long, and had wept when I told her what Harper was doing. I can't believe it, Aline. That sweet little girl who used to help me grade papers, who came to dinner at my house every week. How did this happen? I don't know, Pat. I really don't know. To establish beyond any doubt that I was mentally competent, Dr. Feldman arranged for a comprehensive cognitive evaluation. I spent 3 hours with a neuropsychologist, completing tests, answering questions, demonstrating my mental acuity. I passed with perfect scores. Dr. Feldman provided a written statement. Aline Harrison shows no signs of cognitive impairment whatsoever. She displays excellent judgment, clear understanding of complex financial and medical matters, and full decision-making capacity. Her cancer diagnosis does not affect her mental competency in any way. My oncology team provided additional statements confirming that I was actively participating in treatment planning, understanding all options, and making informed decisions about my care. Meanwhile, Emily continued investigating Garrett. What she found was even more damning than Wed expected. Garrett Sullivan had done this before, twice. 2 previous elderly clients had filed complaints against him with the Bar Association, claiming Head pressured them to sign over assets to family members, who then paid him substantial fees. Both cases had been settled quietly with non-disclosure agreements, But Emily found the women and convinced them to talk. Mrs. Dorothy Campbell, 78, had lost $50,000 before her son intervened. Mr. Frank Wheeler, 81, had nearly lost his entire estate before his daughter discovered what was happening. Both described the same pattern. Garrett befriending a desperate family member, offering legal assistance, manipulating both the elderly person and their relative, taking a huge cut of whatever was gained. As a predator, Emily said bluntly. He targets vulnerable seniors through their own family members. Harper isn't his first accomplice, and she won't be his last unless we stop him. Gerald contacted both Mrs. Campbell and Mr. Wheeler's attorneys. They agreed to provide statements about Garrett's pattern of behavior, documentation that would be crucial if this went to court. With all our evidence gathered, all protections in place, Gerald came to me with a plan. "We set a trap," he said. "We let them think you're ready to cooperate. They come here expecting to get those power of attorney documents signed. Instead, they find law enforcement and evidence of their crimes." "Will that work?" I asked. "If they're arrogant enough to show up with those documents again, yes, they'll walk right into it." Patricia, who was present for this conversation, squeezed my hand. "Are you sure you're ready for this, Aline?" It means confronting Harper directly. Seeing her arrested, I thought about my daughter as a little girl, her first day of kindergarten, her hand in mine, her brave smile, her high school graduation, the pride in her eyes. The first time she said, "I love you, Mom," after her father left. Like she needed to reassure me we'd be okay. But I also thought about her cold voice on that recording, planning to steal from me while I was sick and vulnerable. The forged signatures, the lies, the betrayal. "I'm sure," I said, "this isn't just about me anymore. If we don't stop them, they'll do this to someone else." I pulled out my phone and typed a text to Harper. My hands shook, but I kept my voice steady as I read it aloud to Patricia and Gerald. "Harper, I've been thinking about what you and Garrett said. You're right. I need help. I can't handle everything alone. Can you come over Thursday at 2 o'clock? I'll sign the papers." Harper's response came back within 30 seconds. "Thank God you're seeing sense, Mom. Well, be there. This is the right decision. We love you." I stared at those last 3 words. We love you. The easiest lie, costing nothing to say, meaning nothing at all. Thursday afternoon arrived cold and gray. Patricia stayed with me that morning, making tea, holding my hand, helping me get through the hours. At 1:30, Gerald arrived. Then Emily. Then Detective Morrison and her partner, Detective Ryan Santos. Finally, 2 uniformed officers positioned themselves out of sight. At 1:55, a car pulled into my driveway. Through the window, I watched Harper and Garrett get out, Garrett carrying his leather briefcase, both of them smiling. They had no idea what waited for them inside. I opened the door before they could knock. "Come in." Harper breezed past me with fake cheerfulness. "Mom, we're so glad you're being reasonable about this. It's really for the best." Garrett followed, nodding professionally. "You're making a wise choice, Mrs. Harrison. This will make everything so much easier." They walked into my living room and stopped dead. Gerald stood beside the fireplace in his suit and tie. Emily sat in the armchair with her recorder and folders. Detective Morrison and Detective Santos stood near the doorway. Patricia sat on the sofa, her face stern. Harper's face went white. Garrett's confident smile faltered. "What is this?" Harper demanded. Gerald stepped forward. "I'm Gerald Patterson, Mrs. Harrison's attorney. I'm afraid she won't be signing anything today. Instead, we'd like to discuss some concerning matters." He opened a folder and began laying out documents on the coffee table. The forged credit applications, the fraudulent home equity loan application, bank records showing Harper's theft, the audio recording transcripts, Detective Morrison stepped forward. Miss Harper Harrison and Mr. Garrett Sullivan, you're under investigation for attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, identity theft, forgery, and criminal trespassing. Garrett found his voice blustering. This is ridiculous. I'm an attorney. I know my rights. This is harassment. I'll have all of your badges. Actually, Mr. Sullivan, said a voice from my hallway, you're the one who's in trouble. Everyone turned. A woman in her 60s walked in, wearing judicial robes over her business suit. Judge Barbara Whitmore. The same Judge Garrett had boasted about on the recording, the one who supposedly owed him favors. Garrett's face went from red to gray in seconds. Judge Whitmore looked at him with ice in her eyes. Mr. Sullivan, you've been under investigation by the district attorney's office for 3 months. We've been building a case on your pattern of elder exploitation. You claiming I owe you favors was particularly interesting, since I've never met you before last week when the DA briefed me on this operation. Using my name to intimidate a sick woman? That's a new low, even for you. She turned to Harper. And you, young woman. You should be ashamed of yourself. Harper seemed to crumble, sinking into a chair. She looked at me, her eyes filling with tears. Mom, I can explain. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. Garrett shot her a look of pure fury. Don't say anything. We need lawyers. I'm calling my attorney right now. Good idea, Detective Santos said. You're going to need one. Both of you are being charged with multiple felonies. What happened next would stay with me forever. Garrett immediately went silent, pulling out his phone to call his lawyer, his face a mask of cold calculation. Had been caught, but he wasn't breaking. This was just another legal problem to solve. But Harper fell apart. She looked around the room at the evidence, the police, the stern faces. She looked at me, sitting quietly beside Patricia, and something in her shattered. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry, Mom. You don't understand. I owe so much money. They were threatening me. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. Harper, shut up, Garrett snapped. Don't say another word. But she couldn't stop. The confession poured out through tears. The gambling that started as fun 3 years ago, spiraling into addiction. The losses mounting faster than she could hide them. Losing her job 6 months ago. Lying about still having it. The loan sharks. The threats. The crushing weight of $300,000 in debt. Garrett found me at the casino. He said he could help me. He said it wasn't really stealing because it would be mine someday anyway. He had it all planned out. I just had to get you to sign papers, and he'd handle the rest. She looked up at me, mascara running down her face. When you told me about the cancer, I wanted to care. I wanted to be the daughter you deserved. But all I could think about was the money and how I could use it to save myself. That's when I knew how far I'd fallen, but I was already in it with Garrett. I couldn't stop. Detective Morrison stepped forward with handcuffs. Miss Harrison, Mr. Sullivan, you're both under arrest. As they were led out of my house in handcuffs, Harper sobbing, Garrett silent and stone-faced, I stood at my window and watched the police cars drive away. Patricia put her arm around me. You did the right thing, Aline. You protected yourself. You stopped them from hurting anyone else. I nodded, but my heart was breaking. My daughter, my little girl, in handcuffs, because of her own choices, yes. But also because Id had the strength to hold her accountable. Judge Whitmore came to stand beside me. This was brave. Many parents wouldn't have gone through with it. I didn't have a choice, I said quietly. If Id enabled her, she'd have destroyed us both. That's wisdom, the judge said. Hard-won, painful wisdom, but wisdom nonetheless. The legal proceedings unfolded over the following months. Garrett was charged with multiple felony counts, not just from my case, but from the patterns Emily had uncovered. He faced years in prison. He hired expensive attorneys and fought every charge, showing no remorse. Harper was charged with identity theft, fraud, and attempted financial exploitation. But the district attorney, reviewing all the evidence, including the recordings and Emily's investigation, recognized that Harper was also a victim of Garrett's manipulation. They offered her a plea deal, Gerald explained it to me. If Harper pleads guilty, accepts full responsibility, completes an inpatient gambling addiction treatment program, and pays restitution for the credit card theft, they'll reduce the charges. She'd get probation instead of jail time, but with strict conditions. I sat in Gerald's office, exhausted from another chemotherapy session, trying to decide what to do. What are the conditions? 5 years supervised probation. Mandatory therapy for gambling addiction and family issues. No contact with you unless you initiate it. A restraining order to prevent harassment. Any violation sends her to jail immediately. What do you think I should do? I asked. Gerald leaned back in his chair. Legally, you have every right to push for maximum penalties. What she did was serious. But as your attorney and your friend, I'll say this. Sometimes justice and healing aren't the same thing. Patricia, who'd come with me to the meeting, added softly, Harper needs consequences, but she also needs help, real help. The question is whether you can live with giving her that chance. I thought about the little girl who used to climb into my lap and fall asleep while I worked on my laptop, building the business that Shed tried to steal. I thought about teaching her to ride a bike, celebrating her college graduation, all the moments when Eid believed we'd always have each other. I'll agree to the plea deal, I said, but I want her to understand that this isn't forgiveness. It's an opportunity. What she does with it is up to her. The court date came 6 weeks later. Harper stood before Judge Whitmore in a simple dress, no makeup, her hair pulled back, looking 10 years older than when this all began. She read a prepared statement, her voice shaking but clear. Your Honor, I'm guilty of everything I've been charged with. I betrayed my mother, the person who sacrificed everything for me. I tried to steal from her when she was sick and vulnerable. I have no excuses. I was desperate because of my gambling addiction. Yes, but that doesn't justify what I did. I made choices, bad choices, criminal choices. She paused, wiping tears from her eyes. I destroyed the most important relationship in my life because I was too proud and too scared to ask for help. My mother built everything from nothing, and I tried to take it from her when she needed me most. I'm ashamed of who I became. I can only promise to spend the rest of my life trying to become someone worthy of her love again, even though I don't deserve it. Judge Whitmore looked at her sternly. Miss Harrison, you've been given a gift your mother didn't have to give, a chance at redemption. Don't waste it. She sentenced Harper according to the plea agreement. 90 days inpatient treatment for gambling addiction, 5 years probation, mandatory therapy, restitution of $15,000 for the credit card fraud, restraining order, preventing contact with me unless I initiated it. If you violate any of these terms, Judge Whitmore said, you will serve the maximum jail sentence. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. I watched from the gallery as Harper was led away to begin her treatment program. Patricia squeezed my hand. Months passed. I underwent surgery to remove the tumor, successful but grueling. Then radiation therapy, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. My body felt like a battlefield. My hair fell out. I lost 20 pounds. Some days I was so tired I could barely get out of bed. But I was alive. The cancer was responding to treatment. Dr. Feldman was optimistic. Patricia stayed with me through the worst of it, driving me to appointments, making sure I ate, holding my hand through the pain. Gerald managed the trust, paid my bills, made sure everything was handled. The $12 million sat quietly in investment accounts, growing, while I lived simply on the income it generated. I told no one about the money. Not Patricia, not my neighbors, not anyone. It was my secret fortress, protection against whatever might come. 3 weeks into Harper's treatment, the first letter arrived. I stared at my name in Harper's handwriting on the envelope, unsure if I wanted to open it. But curiosity won. "Mom, I don't expect you to read this or respond. I just need to write it. I'm learning in treatment that my gambling wasn't really about money. It was about escaping feelings I didn't want to face. Inadequacy. Fear of failure. The pressure I put on myself to measure up to what you built. I made you into a measuring stick I could never reach. And instead of dealing with that, I tried to tear you down. I'm so ashamed." The letters came weekly after that. Honest. Painful. Chronicling her progress, her insights, her struggles. I read each one, but didn't respond. I wasn't ready. 9 months after her arrest, after I'd completed all my cancer treatment and received the precious word from Dr. Feldman that I was in remission, Harper completed her inpatient program. She moved into a sober living house, got a job as a barista at a coffee shop, and enrolled in online classes at the community college. Still no contact, per the restraining order. But I heard updates through the probation officer who called periodically to check on me. "She's doing well," Officer Linda Martinez told me. "Perfect attendance at her meetings, seeing her therapist twice a week, paying you back $25 a week from her barista wages toward the restitution. She asks about you sometimes, how you're doing, if you're healthy. What do you tell her?" "That you're doing well, and that's all I can share." One afternoon, a year after the day Harper was arrested, I received a phone call from her therapist. "Mrs. Harrison, this is Dr. Sarah Klein. I'm Harper's therapist. Shay's given me permission to contact you. I'm calling to ask if you'd be willing to receive one more letter from her. Shay's in the 9th step of her recovery program, making amends. She's written you a letter, but she wanted your explicit permission to send it. She understands if you say no." I sat with that question for 3 days. Then I called Dr. Klein back. Yes, she can send the letter. It arrived 4 days later, 8 pages, handwritten, tear-stained. Harper wrote about hitting bottom, about the moment in her jail cell when she finally saw herself clearly, about the grueling work of recovery, facing her demons, understanding her addiction. She wrote about shame so deep she sometimes wanted to disappear. "I always felt like I was living in your shadow. You were so strong, so successful, so capable. I felt like I had to prove myself worthy of being your daughter. When I couldn't, I resented you, even though none of that was your fault. It was my own inadequacy that I couldn't face." She described her life now. "I'm building a small life. I go to meetings every day. I work my shifts at the coffee shop. I study online. I'm learning to be grateful for simple things. I see mothers and daughters together sometimes, and it breaks my heart because I remember what we had, and I know I destroyed it. But I understand that's the consequence of my choices." The letter ended. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for a relationship. I just want you to know that when you refused to sign those papers, when you had me arrested, when you held me accountable, you saved my life. If you'd given in, if you'd enabled me, I would have gambled away everything and destroyed us both. Your strength saved me one more time, even when I was your enemy. I'm building something now. It's not much, but it's honest. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're happy. I hope someday you can think of me without pain. That would be enough. I love you. I'm sorry. Harper. I sat with that letter for 2 weeks, crying over it, angry about it, wrestling with it. Finally, I called Patricia. I don't know what to do, I admitted. Part of me wants to forgive her, part of me can't. Part of me wants to see her, part of me never wants to see her again. Patricia listened, wise as always. Aline, you don't have to decide everything today. You can take small steps, see how it feels. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're also allowed to leave the door open a crack. Both things can be true. I thought about that. Then I sat down and wrote my first response to Harper in 10 months. Harper, I received your letter. I'm not ready to see you or talk yet. The hurt is still too deep, and I need to protect my peace while I continue healing. But I want you to know, I'm proud that you're getting help. I'm proud that you're facing your struggles. I never stopped loving you, even when I couldn't trust you. Love and trust are different things. You'll have to earn back trust over time, if that's even possible. For now, keep doing your work. Keep getting better. I'll be doing the same. Maybe someday we'll find our way back to each other. Until then, I wish you well, Mom. I mailed it and felt lighter somehow, like I'd set down a weight I'd been carrying. Over the next year, we exchanged a few more letters, brief updates. Harper told me about her progress, about getting promoted to shift manager at the coffee shop, about maintaining her sobriety. I told her my cancer remained in remission, that I was healthy and strong again. The letters were careful, boundaried, nothing like the easy relationship we'd had before. But they were something, a fragile thread connecting us across the chasm her betrayal had created. 2 years after the arrest, I finally felt ready to take the next step. I sent a text through Dr. Klein to Harper's phone. Would you like to meet for coffee? Just coffee. No expectations beyond that. Her response came within minutes. I would like that more than anything. Thank you. We met at a neutral cafe I'd never been to before, neither of our usual places. I arrived first, chose a corner table, ordered tea I was too nervous to drink. When Harper walked through the door, I barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, looked older, the softness gone from her face. No makeup, simple jeans and a sweater, hair pulled back in a ponytail. But her eyes were different, clear, sober, aware. We hugged awkwardly, sat down, both of us uncertain how to begin. You look good, Mom, Harper said quietly. Healthy. Thank you. So do you. We talked carefully about safe subjects, the weather, her job at the coffee shop, how she'd been promoted to assistant manager, my consulting work, helping other women entrepreneurs get started. We danced around everything important, feeling our way through the minefield of our history. After an hour, Harper set down her coffee cup and looked at me directly. Mom, can I ask how your health is? Really? I'm in remission. Clear scans for 18 months now. My hair grew back, as you can see. I touched my short silver curls, still getting used to them. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm so grateful. I'm so glad you're okay. When I think about what I did while you were sick, I'm so ashamed I can barely breathe sometimes. Harper, I said gently, you're not that person anymore. At least, you're working hard not to be. I'm trying. Every single day, I'm trying. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I made a decision. There's something you should know. Something I've kept from you. I took a deep breath. When you and Garrett came to me with those papers, the company was already sold. I'd completed the sale 3 days before. You were trying to take control of something that was already gone. Harper's brow furrowed in confusion. What do you mean, sold? You sold Clean Start for $12 million. The sale closed 3 days before you showed up with the power of attorney documents. Understanding dawned slowly on her face. She processed this information. and I watched emotions flicker across her features. Shock, then realization, then something that looked like relief. "You protected yourself," she said slowly. "You knew something was wrong, and you protected yourself before I could hurt you." "Yes, good," she nodded firmly. "Thank God you did, Mom. Thank God. If you hadn't, I would have destroyed everything. I would have gambled it all away within 6 months. The company you spent 26 years building? Gone. I would have ruined everything." Her certainty struck me. "You really believe that?" "I know it. I know exactly what I would have done. I would have convinced myself I was just borrowing it, that I'd win it back, that I could manage it better than you. And I would have lost every penny." She looked at me with clear eyes. "I'm so glad you didn't trust me. I'm so glad you protected yourself. It's the last gift you gave me, even though I didn't deserve it." We talked for another hour. I told her about the treatment, about Patricia's support, about Gerald managing the trust. She told me about her recovery, the daily work of staying sober, the therapy sessions where she peeled back layers of her own dysfunction. As we prepared to leave, I reached across the table and took her hand. "Harper, I've created a trust. When I die, a portion will go to organizations helping women in business. Another portion is designated for you, but with strict conditions." She pulled her hand back. "Mom, no. I don't deserve anything from you. I don't want your money. Please, listen to me. The trust requires 5 years of continuous sobriety, verified by your counselor, completion of your college degree, stable employment, regular therapy. If you meet those conditions, the trust will release funds to you in small, managed amounts through a financial advisor. Not enough to gamble away, but enough to build a modest, secure life." "Why?" Her voice broke. "Why would you do that after everything I did?" I chose my words carefully, because I learned something through all of this. Money doesn't reveal character. It amplifies what's already there. Your addiction and desperation were amplified into something terrible. But if you do the work, if you build a foundation of recovery and self-worth, then maybe money can amplify something better. Security, freedom to pursue dreams without desperation, the ability to help others someday. Tears streamed down Harper's face. "I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep working on yourself. Say you'll keep being honest. Say you'll keep fighting to become who you were meant to be. That's all I need to hear. I will. I promise I will." We hugged goodbye, longer this time, more real. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Harper. "Thank you, Mom, for everything, especially for not giving up on me, even when you had every right to. I won't waste this chance. I promise." I typed back, "One day at a time, sweetheart. That's all any of us can do." Driving home through the autumn afternoon, golden leaves swirling in my wake, I reflected on everything that had happened. The diagnosis that had terrified me, the betrayal that had shattered me, the $12 million that had saved me. I'd kept my mouth shut about that money, and it had revealed truths I needed to see. It had protected me from being drained dry by desperation and manipulation. And paradoxically, it had become the foundation for Harper's redemption, the safety net that let me hold her accountable without destroying her completely. Some people might say I should have told Harper immediately about the sale, trusted her with the truth. But silence had been wisdom. Silence had protected us both. I'd learned that wealth reveals character but doesn't determine it. Money is neutral. It amplifies whatever exists in your heart. Greed becomes theft. Desperation becomes destruction. But integrity becomes security. Wisdom becomes generosity. Love becomes transformation. I'd learned that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone you love is accountability, consequences, the refusal to enable their worst impulses. It had broken my heart to have Harper arrested, but it had saved her life. I'd learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it never happened. Harper and I would never have the easy, trusting relationship Wed had before. That innocence was gone forever. But we were building something new, more honest, built on harder truths and earned redemption. Most importantly, I'd learned that I was stronger than I knew. I'd survived cancer. I'd survived my daughter's betrayal. I'd protected myself when it would have been so much easier to give in, to sign those papers, to let her take everything rather than face the pain of confronting her. I'd built a company from nothing once. I'd built a life as a single mother. Now I was building something even harder, a careful, boundaried hope that love could heal even the deepest wounds if both people were willing to do the work. Not through money, though money helped. Through time, through truth, through transformation. I pulled into my driveway, the modest house I'd kept despite my wealth. Inside, Patricia had left dinner in my refrigerator with a note. "Proud of you? Call me later." I smiled, heated up the casserole, and sat at my kitchen table. The same table where I'd once mixed cleaning formulas while Harper did homework beside me. The same table where Garrett had laid out those power of attorney documents. The same table where I'd listened to recordings of my daughter plotting to steal from me. The same table where, maybe someday, Harper and I might share a meal again as mother and daughter who'd survived the worst and found their way back to something real. I raised my glass of water in a silent toast. To survival, to wisdom, to second chances that had to be earned. To the understanding that the best inheritance isn't money in a bank account, but the lessons that shape who we become. Character matters more than wealth. Accountability matters more than comfort. Redemption is possible, but only through honest work and genuine change. And sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are exactly the same. I'd kept my mouth shut about $12 million, and it had saved us both. I'd held firm when it would have been easier to surrender. I'd demanded accountability when it would have been simpler to excuse and enable. And now, 2 years later, I was alive, healthy, financially secure, and watching my daughter slowly rebuild herself into someone worthy of respect. Not perfect, not without scars, but real, honest, and moving forward. That was enough. That was everything. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to make a choice between protecting yourself and protecting someone you love? Have you ever had to hold someone accountable even though it broke your heart? How did you find the strength to do what was right instead of what was easy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. If this story touched your heart or taught you something, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future stories about courage, survival, and the complicated truth about family. And please share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who's struggling with tough decisions about trust and boundaries. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for understanding that sometimes love means saying no, that sometimes protecting yourself is the most loving thing you can do for everyone involved. I wish you strength for your own difficult decisions, wisdom to see the truth clearly, and the courage to act on it even when it hurts. Take care of yourselves, and remember, one day at a time, we all can become who we're meant to be.